Good morning. Thank you guys for joining our third Seat of People interview call. I am extremely excited for today's. I've got my good buddy Dallas Keithley. Say hello, Dallas.
Hello, hello.
And he's been a good friend of mine for a very long time. He's having a lot of success this year in his business, and I wanted to have him on so that you could get a feeling of obviously what it takes to succeed, what he's doing prospecting wise, and may hopefully get some creative ideas that you can use in your day-to-day operations. So, Dallas, before we dive in, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, where you're from, your background, kind of give us a little snapshot of your life, so to speak.
All right. Well, I grew up in the big old metropolis of Spokane, Missouri. Went to
the big city.
School. Yeah, and when I was about 9, 10 years old, my parents became missionaries, went to Papua New Guinea, and stayed there for about 6, 7 years, and have had a interesting life, got to travel all over the world, and always came back to Missouri, though, and called this home. So
very good. Well, how did you end up in the insurance business?
The way I ended up in the insurance business, I got laid off. I was working in a factory in Ozark, Missouri, there at Tracker Marine, and every summer they would lay off. I had worked there for about 4 years and was getting tired of it, not making any money, barely getting by, living check to check. And so I had friends that were in the insurance business that were doing well, and when you see somebody succeeding, you want to do what they're doing. So
absolutely,
I went and talked to Brian Askins, and he interviewed me and set me up and got me into it.
Wow. What was it about the business that attracted you, other than the fact that you saw someone that was succeeding? You know, I mean,
honestly, it was probably the wrong things that attracted me. It was more the freedom of the business,
okay.
And
you learned real quick that it wasn't as free as you thought it would be.
Not as free as you think it would be, but
it can be down the road. There's no question.
It can be, but you have to earn the freedom, and so
that's a great way of putting it.
And just seeing other people succeed, and also being able to help people. And I have a severe case of ADD, and I do not like being in one place. Working on an assembly line drove me crazy, and so I like to be able to go out. I'm going to see 3 different people today in 3 different places, and I love that about the business.
Good, very good. Well, I always ask all of the new agents that come on, or experienced agents, and I even ask myself quite a bit. I feel like we've always got to have a why outside of
Absolutely.
Making money and succeeding and buying a big house. We've all got to have a little bit of a why to our story. Well, what would you say your why is, Dee?
My why is easy. Part of it I already mentioned a little bit is I want to help people. It sounds cheesy, it sounds corny, but when I look back on my life, I want to look back and say, okay, because I was here, life for other people was better. And then not only that, my family. I've got 2 little girls that I want to be able, they don't, what they do with their life, my prayer for them is whatever they do their best at it. But I want them, if they come to me and say, hey, I want to go to Yale, I want to go to Harvard, I want to be able to say, okay, let's do it. And so just to be able to provide for them, give them the best that they can, and then teach them to work hard and succeed at whatever they do.
I like that. I like that a lot. Has your why changed at all?
It has. As you get older, your priorities change, your goals change. But I say it has and it hasn't. The end is still there. The just to see people and to help people and to make my family better. That's always been my underlying goal.
Very good. What would you say that you did to be one of the agents that actually succeed in this business? What's your story there? How did you make it, so to speak?
I had to get serious, and it took me a lot longer. Fortunately, my story is filled with a lot of patient people. I failed at this business, honestly, twice before I realized what it was. Getting back, when I first started, as I said earlier, the freedom was what enticed me. And to be real honest, that can't be why you're in this business. Because if you do not put in 50, 60 hours a week, if you do not set your goals and do whatever it takes to meet them, you're not going to succeed. You're going to be miserable. You're going to hate the business. You're going to hate yourself. Your family is going to be upset with you. And that's where I was for a long time. When I finally realized that, hey, you have to treat this like a job. You have to come to work every day with a plan, and you have to get in and see the people. I got serious, and then also I started enjoying it. And it's insurance is a funny thing. I saw a graph here a while back. It's a 50-50 business. You either are hating life, hating everything about it, you're broke, or you feel like that you're the king of the world. And it's really up to you where you're at on that graph.
A bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Well, how did you consistently see the people back when you first started? Let's talk about that for a second. How did you consistently see people back when you first started? What did you do?
Well, my first
and
couple months,
this may help agents hear, what not to do and how you felt like you failed in a way.
When I first started, I didn't. I had a manager a long time ago that told me that agents that chase elephants, that hunt elephants, will fail. And that's what I tried to do. I tried to, always tell myself, well, tomorrow I'm going to land that big one. Tomorrow I'm going to, somebody's going to walk into my office with that annuity that just has to put it with me. And tomorrow would come every once in a while. Every agent will fall into one eventually. But then you're just playing catch-up on your bills. You're playing catch-up on everything. And so originally I didn't see the people. Now, I think one thing that hurt me too, I always thought that there was a magical formula, that, you see other agents succeeding and you think, well, they're doing it, and you try to see what they're doing and there's some magic formula. There's no magic formula. The magic formula is you get in there and you work. You get in there and you make the phone calls it takes in order to get in front of the people. You get in there and sometimes you have to spend some money to if you're going to go lead. There's no magic lead source. You just got to see the right people and do the work.
Yeah, there's definitely no magic formula or secret formula or just magic equation, so to speak. We've just got to, as you said, no matter how we see them, we still got to see them. How many did you see? Give us how many did you see back then?
Back
each
then,
week?
Back then, probably, it's embarrassing to say, probably 1 to 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which proves my point, because I tell all my agents every single week that if you see less than 5 people a week, you will fail. If you see at least 5 or more every week, you will do good. And if you can somehow find a way to see 10 or more every week, you will do great.
And it's not just insurance; it's anything. If you want to be a ball player, if you only get 1 at bat per game, you're not going to succeed. If you only take 2 shots in a basketball game, you're going to be riding the pine.
Yeah.
And
or if you only practice a couple days of summer,
absolutely,
you're not going to have a great season.
Absolutely.
Very good. Well, what products did you sell starting out? What was your niche? What did you enjoy selling other than the annuities to elephants?
Yeah. Life, and I found one of the things that really helped me succeed this last time, I've always said insurance, especially in the big towns, and I consider Springfield a big town. Remember, I'm from Spokane. But insurance is a saturated market. You have to be different. You have to have a reason. It's like churches in Springfield, Missouri. There's hundreds of them.
Churches, restaurants, and insurance agents.
Yeah. Cashew places and insurance things. Absolutely. You have to be different. So I started looking into something that would make me different. Critical illness was a product for me when I decided to get serious and get successful, that I saw that a lot of agents were not selling. And so I
probably were never even mentioning it, including myself.
Yeah. And, we've got 2 enormous cancer centers here in Springfield. My wife actually works in the cancer department there at Cox, and I just started thinking, man, this is a need. People can relate to this. I mean, who doesn't know someone that's had cancer or heart attack or stroke? And so I started selling that and actually led our market, our area in critical illness sales when I started getting serious. But I love life insurance. I believe that you have to believe in what you're selling in order to have it. I believe you have to own what you're selling. It's why I've probably never sold a lot of long-term care, because it doesn't affect me personally. But I do have a life insurance policy. I do have a critical illness policy.
That's a good point. A lot of times it'll tie into what our story and our background is, and how we've saw certain things affect our friends and family, and what the products that affected them that maybe they didn't have that we feel like they needed are ones that we feel just a little more passionate about,
Absolutely,
a little more serious about.
My mom's had cancer, and I watched, she came through it fine, but I watched the financial struggle of it. My grandmother, I've told the story, my grandpa had a farm. My grandma got cancer, they had to sell the farm because of the financial impact of it. And so it's I've just seen people affected by it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's a strong story, too. Do you use stories like that in your business?
Absolutely, yeah. You've got to relate to people. If you go into a house and start telling people, look, critical illness will pay for this, pay for this, pay for this, you got to sell the sizzle, not the steak. If you go into a house and tell them, you tell a story about your grandpa, or you ask them, the most powerful story that you can tell is their story. Who do you know that's been affected by cancer? What would $50,000 in their bank account, how would it have helped them? And I've had people tell me, well, money isn't the answer. No, but, it sure makes the answer easier to find. And
no question there. Makes the pill a little easier to swallow when you're not emotionally hurt and financially hurt.
Yeah. What insurance does, it allows you to do what needs to be done and not worry about finances.
Very good. Well, how did you fact find back then, or did you?
You have to be successful. You have to. Fact finding. What a lot of agents do, they walk into a house. There's an immediate need. They sell that need, and then they never talk to that person again.
They just run out.
Yeah.
Who's the next person that wants to buy?
Who's next? And you're leaving a lot of meat on the bone.
Mm-hmm.
For a quick story, I walked into a house one time to sell a Medicare supplement, and as a captive agent back then, a Medicare supplement would have made me $150, $200.
Right.
And so, but I just attended a meeting where they had talked about fact finding and finding bottom of the barrel dollars, and so I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a try. So as I was getting ready to leave, I said, hey, how much do you have as an inheritance? Because the lady had talked about she had 6 kids. And she said, well, I've got $140,000. And I said, is it just sitting there? She said, yeah, it's in a bank account just sitting there.
Oh. And
so we ended up taking that $140,000, buying a single premium paid up life insurance policy, gave her kids an inheritance of $450,000, and
immediately tripled her estate.
Tripled her estate and made me a paycheck of around $13,000. So.
Wow. You finally killed that elephant, didn't
you? I told you. Every agent will fall into one every once in a while. But, yeah, you have to fact find. You have to find the other needs.
So just from hearing that meeting or that training that has recently happened, and if it wouldn't have been for that, would you have asked that question?
A.J. Scar was the speaker, and I went back and called him and said, hey, thank you for bringing that up.
That's funny.
And, but no, I would have never asked. I would have gotten the Medicare supplement. I would have made my $150 and went on to wait for the next elephant.
Gosh, if that story doesn't just grab us by our shirt and shake us and say, you know what, let's fact find and let's ask the right questions. I don't know what story can. So thank you for sharing. That was strong. I appreciate that. Did you set any goals back then? I know you talked about how you have to have goals. Now, did you understand that back then?
Well, I had a manager that would make us set goals, but I didn't believe in my goals.
The manager was making you.
Yeah, I didn't believe in them. They weren't my goals. I have my goals now. For example, I've got my short-term goals. I have to see 8 people a week. And then my short-term goals, I want to put in, at the very minimum, I want to put in $5,000. I want to have $5,000 in pending at all times. That's my minimum.
And that's not because he doesn't work his pending and let it sit there. It's
no.
because he's putting stuff in consistently.
You got to keep it rolling. You got to keep the hopper full.
Exactly.
And then my long-term goals, I want to be in a new house in 5 years, and I want it to be a house that my wife and I design and build, and
wow.
And hopefully stay married through.
Yeah, I've heard building can be a challenge. What about some acreage?
Yeah, absolutely. 10 acres. My kids want horses. And I grew up working, as I said, on my grandpa's farm. I enjoy it. I believe it builds a work ethic. I want to give my kids the same options. And so, yeah, those are my goals.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing those. Did you you didn't have those same goals back then, though, did you?
Absolutely not. No, it was my goals back then, if I were being completely honest, and I hope Mike DeFontes doesn't listen to this later, but my goals back
he
then
probably will.
were to make excuses and be able to get through a Friday morning meeting and explain why I didn't produce that week. Those were my goals.
Wow.
So.
Wow. And if that's the way we think and that's the kind of goals we set, we do find the excuses to get us through each week. And you know what? We probably start to, I don't know if this affected you at all. We probably start to think more negatively and making excuses why we're not actually succeeding in making it. Do you agree with that?
If I would have put the time into finding people and seeing people that I put into making excuses, I'd have been extremely successful.
Yeah,
so.
And you can tell just by your demeanor and your daily activity and your work ethic that you are a much more positive individual nowadays.
You have to. Yeah.
How important is being positive in this business? You mentioned earlier about the 50-50 graph. You're either broke and hating life, or you're, especially in this business, or you're succeeding, you're killing it, and you're loving it.
Well, let me ask you this question. If you walk into a Ford dealership and was looking for a new Mustang, and the salesman walked out and said, we probably don't have anything that you're looking for. And to be honest with you, you probably wouldn't get through financing. These are expensive cars, and, I
haven't sold a car in a month.
I haven't sold a car in a month, and you're probably not going to be it. It doesn't matter how bad I want that Mustang. It doesn't matter if I have cash in pocket. I'm not buying from that guy, because I want my experience to be a good experience. And the same thing for me. Even on the phones, people can tell if you're down, if you're out, if you I try to make it to where every phone call I make is my first phone call of the day. It doesn't matter if the last guy yelled at me, called my mother names. I'm going to pick up the phone, and my next phone call is going to be happy. It's going to be a success. It's going to be that elephant. It's going to be the big one, and I'm going to change these people's lives. So
nice, very nice. How much money did you make the first full year? I'm going to put a little pressure on you now.
It's embarrassing. Probably $20,000, $30,000.
Okay.
Enough to scrape by. Which honestly, in my opinion, scraping by is the worst thing you can possibly do. I'd rather fail. I'd rather get out of the business and fail.
No question.
Than scrape by.
Because you just have that mentality of it. I have enough. I have just enough
Yeah.
to take a week off and hit it next time.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, this is not on the sheet. I think about this question all the time, and I've got it in my goals. What would you like? And maybe the answer is never or nothing, but what would you say is, and Dallas is looking at me with a perplexed look like, what in the world?
He didn't float this question by my agent.
What would you say if you could make this amount of money one day? Maybe it's in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. What would you, and you said, if I could make this amount of money per year, I would be happy or content.
I don't have that number. I hope I always want more. And money.
That's the answer I was looking for, by the way.
Money is a means to an end. I want my kids to be happy if we have $20 in the bank, or if we have, $100,000 in the bank. But I say that, and I'll tell you, I've been broke. I mean, I've been rolling pennies for gas, macaroni and cheese was a treat, broke. But money, my goal is that I can do what I want to do, and I don't have to think, can I afford it? That's my goal. I've never really set a number.
Okay, good.
I want, it sounds greedy, but I want more.
No,
Whatever the number is, I want more. I want to be able just to do what, God puts somebody in front of me to help them. I want to be able to help them. My kids, like I said, want to go to college. I want to say what to do it. Yeah.
No, and there was you definitely you answered that 100% correctly, because we, in our life we always want to strive to be better, and everything we do, doesn't matter if we're 4 years old or 84 years old, We want to always try to do better. We want to always strive to get more, so to speak. And if it sounds greedy, then you know what? Everyone that's ever succeeded in this life has been greedy. And so, yeah, I know I kind of floated that by you real quick, but I appreciate you dwelling on that for a second. Walk us through your week back as a new agent. What did you do on a daily basis? What did your week look like?
As a new agent, brand new, my week looked like a lot of worry, a lot of coming into the office. I don't know what I'm going to do today. As I said, I hope somebody walks in.
So you didn't have a plan?
I didn't have a plan. Didn't have a system. It was avoiding the manager. It was
you walked around the building to get past his office.
Exactly. It was going out, taking very long lunches that I couldn't afford. It was finding excuses to be out of the office. It was a lot of that. Now, as a successful agent, it's coming into the office. It's knowing here's what I'm going to do today.
And this is what your week looks like now, right?
Right now, it's I know what I'm doing today. I know what I'm doing tomorrow. I know what I'm doing the rest of the week. It's funny. It's finding time to get everything done now. It's finding
time
how it
works.
To see the people and all that. But
instead of having more time on your hands, it's like, where do they go? You know, how can I buy more?
Yeah, exactly. My goal every night, I want to lay my head on my pillow and think, if I wouldn't have got out of bed today, would it have made a difference? If I'd have just stayed in bed all day versus what I did today, would it have made a difference? So.
Wow. What did you answer last night?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Your business seems to have transitioned since, obviously, back when you weren't happy with this business and your level of success, so to speak. How has it transitioned since then? And this is a really open-ended question. You can answer this like 100 different ways.
I'd say the biggest thing is learning from failure, learning here's what you don't do, and then just having a work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said there is no right way to sell insurance, and that's a positive thing. That's an absolute positive thing. You can do 100 different things. If we're talking to 20 different agents, you're going to look at 20 different plans, but all of them can and will work with work ethic.
There's no question there. It's just all about putting in the time, seeing the people, fact-finding, and reaching our goals. So for all of our listeners out there, for those who are listening right now, and for those who will be listening on YouTube later on, because this is something that a lot of people are starting to follow and listen to, what is Keithley Financial?
Keithley Financial is an opportunity to help people. As I said before, I started out as a captive agent. And what being part of Keithley Financial is a part of Secure Insurance Group. It allows me, when you're a captive agent, you don't sit down and think, okay, is this product going to benefit the people or is it going to benefit somebody else? Is it going to benefit me? You just have to sell what's in front of you, as a captive agent. As Keithley Financial, I can benefit my client. I can give them options. I can help them reach their goals. Very good. Well, thank you for sharing that. Well, what's your focus now? What's Keithley Financial focused on at this moment? I have a three-part. I always think a business, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, should have three ways to succeed. Number one is my warm market. I have a rolling 100 sheet that I try to keep. It's in a notebook. And then I have a Assist to Achieve is a group that I started as a referral group. I depend on that. And then a small part of my business is leads as well. So. When you talk about leads, what do you do with leads? I know the answer, but yeah, I have a system that I use. I purchase leads through a vintage lead company, and then I call them. If I get a hold of them, I try to make that sell that day because I'm looking for a specific person. I like final expense insurance when it comes to leads. I like a low-income client that is looking to provide something for their burial. And so it's usually a one phone call sale. It's usually quick. It's usually easy. And like I said before, I can give them 10 options and show them what's best for them. So, but then I follow up. I have a file system.
What's your follow-up system look like?
I have a file system that I use that I've got a file. It's simple, but I'm a simple guy. I have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday file. So if they say, hey, now's not a good time, my next question is going to be, when can I call you back? If they say Wednesday at 10, I'm putting that in the Wednesday file every morning. That's one of the first things I look at, my Wednesday file, and here's what I'm doing today. Good. For those leads, yeah.
Got to have a system, got to be organized. So you're saying you prospect now from warm market, your networking group that you've started, and from expense leads, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I say the most important is my warm client market.
Okay. What do you do with those? How do you approach those? What's the secret sauce there?
The secret sauce is always being an agent. I'm always an agent. Last night I went to my daughter's basketball game. Well, today I'm sitting down with my daughter's basketball coach because we're going to talk about insurance. If you meet me, we're going to talk about insurance. And then a lot of people are timid about their warm market because they feel like they don't want to be that guy. And I'll talk briefly about you can't be afraid to be that guy. What's worse? Asking them, having a 5-minute phone conversation saying, hey, I'd love to sit down with you and show you what I do. Would you allow me to do that? And I'd like to learn more about you and what you do. Maybe I can help you out. I love referrals. I believe in referrals. But what's more awkward, sitting there, and I'm going to sound cheesy and like an insurance agent for a second, sitting there with that 5-minute phone call and them saying, maybe even saying, you know what, we're good. We've got an agent, and this has happened to me with family before. And you just have to, like I said, go to the next one. Or standing beside them at their husband's funeral and them saying, hey, don't you sell life insurance? Why didn't you ever call me? Why didn't you ever talk to me? Why didn't, I don't know how we're going to pay for this. So.
And it's happened.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, it's happened.
Wow. That's also a strong question. Thank you for that. How do you, you've got your warm market, you've got your networking group. Tell us a little about your networking group for a second.
It's much like a BNI or a mob group. And again, there's no right way, there's no wrong way. I started looking into getting into BNI. I saw, again, Brian Askins had a very successful networking group. So I started looking into BNI, the mob group. The problem with some of those is, and if you're in one, I'm not degrading them at all. What I found was that they had an insurance guy. I called one and they said, well, you could be our disability insurance guy. We've got a life insurance guy. We've got an auto and home guy. We've got a health guy. You can be the disability guy. Well, that's not what I'm looking for. So I just started my own, started talking to friends that I know own businesses, and we meet once a week. We try to send referrals. My goal is to send out 2 to 3 referrals every week because I know that's the fastest way to get a referral.
No question. So. That's a good point. Most of us don't think like that. Did you? Is there any follow-ups or systems that we haven't went over that you have in place that you do?
I keep my calendar. You have to keep a calendar. You have to, boy, technology is amazing nowadays. I don't know how all these old guys did it, but I've got 3 calendars on my phone alone. There's no excuse for not following up nowadays, I guess is what I'm saying. But I check my calendar every day and make sure I'm not supposed to call somebody that day So.
Good. Did you try to, now we'll focus on back then, did you try to improve yourself as a salesman back when you first started?
No, not at all.
Okay. Do you now?
Yeah, you have to. The way I improve myself now, one of my favorite books is How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success by, I believe his name's Frank Betger, or
That's
Betger,
right.
I may be saying it wrong.
That's right. That's a phenomenal book for everyone that I'm going to repeat that so everyone heard that. How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success and Selling by Frank Betger. Betcher. Sorry, Frank.
Yeah.
I'm mispronouncing your name probably.
I don't think he's around.
Expand on that for a second.
Well, and it showed, I think I could relate to his story because he starts out by telling how he was a failure, how
right.
he hated life, and I thought, my goodness, this guy's writing my book. And he talks about trying to stay away from his boss and all that stuff. But, it just kind of gives a personal story. It's set back in, I think, the 50s. And so a lot of it it's kind of funny to read now, but it still applies today. And then there's other things out there. I have a good friend that's always sending me The Art of Closing the Sale, Dale Carnegie, Grant Cardone, So, and Cody didn't tell me to mention this at all, but his website, if you haven't been to it, it's your own fault. There's audiobook after audiobook after audiobook. And so you say, well, man, those are cheesy, those are corny. Yeah, but they work. You know what? You see an athlete in the locker room, what's he doing? He's got headphones on and he's bopping his head. He's getting pumped up. He's getting ready for work. And we have to do the same thing. The other thing that I do to improve myself, I try to surround myself with good people. If you surround yourself with unsuccessful people, your chances of succeeding are near zero.
Did you struggle with that in the beginning?
Yeah, I did. And it wasn't – and here's the thing. I heard a story once, and I love to tell stories, so I apologize. I heard a story once. A preacher told me a story that a woman walked into his office and said, my son is in trouble again, and he's having all these problems. And she said, it's just the boys he runs out with. It's just the guys that he hangs out with. They're just bad news. And so he went and saw the families of all these other boys that had gotten in trouble as well. And each one of them said the exact same thing. It's the boys he hangs out with. So, birds of a feather flock together. If you're not succeeding due to the people that you hang around with, it may be because you're a negative person.
Absolutely. Yeah. That I'm gonna jump in right there too, because if there's anyone that is a negative influence in your life whatsoever, I don't care if it's family or friend or what, cut ties immediately. There is nothing worse than a negative individual in your life, and the most positive thing we can be, or the most important thing we can be, is positive. People buy positive, people love positive, and positive people influence other positive people. So if you're negative, or if you're around negative people, stop it and get away from it. It will really affect you.
If you're going out to lunch with a guy that and both of you are comfortable taking a 2-hour lunch, that's probably not a guy to go out to lunch with.
No doubt about it. I love that. For all of the new and struggling agents that are going to be listening now live or listening later on YouTube, what advice would you give for being able to prospect consistently?
For a new agent, I think the biggest thing, and I touched on it a little bit earlier, always be an agent. Always. Train your wife. Train your kids. Always be an agent. If you are a professional mechanic, what's the first thing that someone's going to ask you when you walk into a room? Hey, buddy, my car's making a weird noise. What do you think it is? They ought to treat you as an insurance agent the same way. I guarantee you there are people out there listening to this that are in the insurance market that have been in it over a year, that they have friends and family that don't know they're an insurance agent.
That's probably true. It was true with me. So you know what?
Yeah. Always be an agent. Always be, when you're at your daughter's ball game, and you may say, well, it's embarrassing, or I had a gentleman.
Then get out of the career, because I can promise you this is the most rewarding career in the world. But people do think that way, though.
Yeah. I had a lady in my referral group say she didn't want to be, she didn't talk to some people because she didn't want them to think she was a salesman. I had a gentleman here a while back.
Tell her be sold, baby.
Absolutely. I had a gentleman tell me here a while back, never be ashamed of being a salesman. And we were sitting there. He said, look around here. He said, everything you have, and we were in my house, he said, everything you have was sold to you. Everything, from your television to your couches to your carpet, it was sold to you. And so we are selling a product. If you don't believe that what you're doing will benefit someone, you need to get out of the business, because, I do this because I truly believe that I can benefit people.
There's no question about that. Thank you for that. I know we got after your body for a second, but I like that. That was good. Yeah. Everything we've ever bought has been sold to us. Every time we've ever made a paycheck, we've sold someone something, even if it's the fact that we worked and punched a clock at Tracker, like you mentioned. Well, you had to sell them that you deserve to be there. Mm-hmm. You had to sell them that they deserve to give you a check and keep you for the next week. So, yeah, on Dallas, I appreciate that plug about secureagentmentor.com, because there's a lot of audiobooks on there, a lot of free audiobooks. And one of them is, just so happens, Sell or Be Sold by Grant Cardone. So yeah. I'll give him a little plug too. If you had to pick one word, just one word to define your success, what would it be?
Consistency. You have to be consistent. There are days, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. There are days when you're going to go home and you're going to tell your wife, I couldn't sell matches to an Eskimo. You know, there are days when you are going to make 150 phone calls and you're going to get yelled at. You could not get anybody to buy anything. And you're going to think, I'm never going to make a sale again. You have to get up the next day and you have to make 150 phone calls. And consistency. If you are consistent, I don't care what you're doing. If it's warm market, if it's leads, if it's door knocking, if whatever it is, if you are consistent, you will succeed.
Especially if you're positively consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Absolutely.
Okay. Consistency. I like it. Consistency. Is there anything else that you'd like to share that you feel is important that we haven't touched on?
The first thing that comes to mind is treat this job like a real job. If you are in this for the freedom, you're not going to make it. Treat it like a real job. You have